My name is Elena, I'm 25, and that evening I discovered that my own sister had turned my birthday party into her stage, trashed my apartment, and locked me outside in the cold. If you've ever faced something like this, comment where you're reading from. The smell of melted wax still lingered in the living room. I had lit 25 small candles on a carrot cake I baked myself that morning. The overhead light was too harsh, so I'd switched it off and left only the amber glow from the kitchen fixture, soft against the tiled floor. I was holding a ceramic mug with a chip at the rim, my favorite one, cream-colored with a blue stripe I bought for $2.40 at a thrift shop on 7th Avenue. That little mug felt like company when my parents texted they couldn't make it. It was 7:42 p.m. My phone screen lit up with a message from my sister, on my way, bringing some friends. I exhaled, relieved at first. At least someone would come. I brushed the crumbs from the counter, adjusted the plates I'd set out, and straightened the stack of paper napkins, red, folded in triangles. When the knock came, it was loud, 3 hard raps. My sister swept in with 4 people I didn't know. Perfume, alcohol, cold air. Their coats hit the back of my chair, their voices drowned the low playlist I'd queued. Within minutes, bottles clinked, shoes scuffed my rug, and someone shouted, "Turn this up," as if my small rented apartment were a club. I laughed once, trying to mask the sting, but inside my chest something sank. This wasn't a birthday party for me anymore. It was a takeover. By 9 p.m., my cake sat untouched, the frosting softening at the edges. A beer can toppled onto the floor, the liquid spread into the grain of the wood like a slow bruise. I stepped out onto the balcony for air, wrapping my cardigan tight against the November chill. The street lights threw pale yellow bars onto the asphalt below. When I tried to re-enter 5 minutes later, the sliding door wouldn't budge. Locked. Through the glass, I saw them laughing, music pulsing, my sister holding court with her friends. I pressed the glass with my palm, then knocked once. No one turned. My cardigan was thin, the cold gnawed fast at my arms. I held my chipped mug empty in my hand like proof that I existed here, that this was still my place. I didn't know yet that in 4 weeks, the same sister would be sobbing in the harsh light of a police station. The next morning, the apartment smelled of stale beer and something sharp, like vinegar mixed with smoke. I pushed open the front door at 8:13 a.m., key still warm in my pocket from the neighbor who had let me crash on her couch. The sight stopped me, crushed chips ground into the carpet, a tipped-over vase bleeding water into a warped circle on the wooden floor, my birthday cake collapsed sideways in its box. The kitchen table was buried under empty bottles, their labels peeling with condensation. My favorite ceramic mug, the chipped one, lay broken in 2 halves near the sink. The clock on the wall ticked calmly at me, as if nothing had happened. My sister was sprawled on the couch under a throw blanket I'd bought last spring. Her shoes were still on. One of her friends stirred on the floor, face down, phone buzzing with a 9% battery warning. "Get up," I said, not raising my voice. My throat felt dry, like I'd swallowed dust. My sister opened one eye, then rolled over. "You're so dramatic," she mumbled. "It was just a party." I counted the cans on the counter, 17, plus 3 liquor bottles. That was what just a party looked like. When I stepped closer, my foot caught on something sharp, the spine of my photo album, pages bent where someone had stepped on it. Inside, the picture of me at age 10 holding a school certificate was smudged with beer. That sting went deeper than the broken mug. I stacked the bottles in a trash bag, one by one, the clinking louder than any words I could say. My sister sat up, hair tangled, eyeliner smeared. She watched me without shame, like this mess was my job to clean. "You're welcome, by the way," she added. "At least I brought people. You had nothing going on." The sentence dropped heavy. For a second, I almost replied, almost defended myself, but the air in my chest went still. I placed the broken mug pieces carefully on the counter, side by side. A reminder, not to be swept away. I didn't throw her out then. I didn't argue. But something inside me folded in a clean, final line. "I won't do this anymore," I whispered, not to her but to myself. The morning light caught the shards of ceramic, and they looked almost like something deliberate. It wasn't just that night. It never really is. I grew up in a house where noise was currency. Whoever was the loudest one. My mother's voice would slice through the hallway at 6:30 a.m., calling us down for school, already exasperated. My father barely looked up from the newspaper, nodding at the headlines instead of at me. If my sister made a scene, slammed a door, cried on cue, attention bent toward her. I learned to step back, to hold my breath and wait until it passed. There were good moments, of course. Summers when we biked to the lake, the smell of pine needles sticking to our skin. I remember one July day when my father helped me build a wooden bookshelf, 48 inches tall, sanding the edges smooth. He smiled at me then, a smile I memorized because it was so rare. That shelf still stands in my apartment, crowded with novels I bought secondhand. But more often it was like this: birthdays blurred, gifts forgotten. When I turned 18, I baked my own cake. Chocolate with too much cocoa, dry at the edges. My parents said they were too busy to plan anything. My sister teased me for making it a big deal. She invited her friends that night too, and they ended up taking over the living room, leaving me with melted ice cream and half-clean plates. At university, I promised myself I'd start fresh. I studied finance, worked part-time at a cafe, saved every receipt. By 23, I had enough to rent this 620-square-foot apartment, my own key, my own rules. It smelled of coffee and fresh paint when I moved in. Independence tasted like crisp air in October, when I carried my last box up the stairs alone. But family ties are like threads you don't see until you trip on them. My sister borrowed money just until next Friday, always in odd amounts: $40, $85, $120. Rarely repaid. My mother brushed it off: "She's the younger one, you're the responsible one." I swallowed it, added it to a private ledger in my mind. So when I turned 25, I thought, maybe this year I'll claim the space. Bake the cake. Light the candles. Invite them in, not out of duty but choice. Instead, I found myself locked on the balcony with the November wind biting my hands. What was at stake wasn't just one night or one broken mug. It was the pattern repeating, a pattern that told me my place was always second, always smaller. I didn't know yet that breaking that pattern would cost me more than silence, it would cost me proof. The first sign came 3 days later, when I logged into my online banking. I wanted to check if my rent payment, $1,280 due on the 1st, had cleared. The balance looked thinner than it should. At the top of the transaction list, one transfer jumped out. November 30th, Zelle transfer, $500. 00. The recipient name was familiar. My sister. I stared at it, the numbers crisp and black against the pale gray screen. The date, the morning after the party, 8:14 a.m. The exact window when I'd been dragging trash bags out to the dumpster, my hands raw from the cold plastic cutting into my palms. I knew I hadn't sent it. My phone had been dead that night, I remembered plugging it in at 2:07 a.m. Screen cracked but charging. I clicked View Details. The confirmation showed my account, my last 4 digits, and her email. The screenshot function was muscle memory by then. My thumb hit the buttons, the image froze, transfer amount, date, time. The evidence sat glowing in my photo gallery beside the pictures of broken cake and spilled beer. Later that afternoon, I confronted her. She was on my couch again, scrolling through her phone like it was her territory. I held up the screen. "You took $500, I said. She barely glanced. "You said I could borrow money. Don't be so uptight. I didn't authorize this." She smirked, brushing a crumb from her jeans. "You probably forgot. You always overthink things." It was the same line she'd used when she dented my bookshelf 2 years ago and swore it had been there before. Gaslight wrapped in casual tone. I looked down at the screenshot again. Numbers don't blur with memory. They stay. They timestamp. I didn't forget, I said. My voice was quiet, flat. Her friends might have laughed that off, but she didn't. She shifted, defensive. It's not a big deal. I'll pay you back. But we both knew she wouldn't. The ledger in my head ticked louder, $40, $85, $120, now $500. I set my phone on the coffee table, face up, the glow of the screenshot bright against the clutter. A line inside me clicked into place, sharper than anger. I make a choice. I won't argue with her anymore. I'll keep the record. And I'll wait until it matters. I didn't trust myself at first. Maybe she was right, maybe I'd clicked something half asleep. That's the hook she always used, make me doubt my own memory. So I went to the branch in person. The air inside smelled faintly of printer ink and floor polish, cool from the AC though it was December. A line of silver chairs faced the teller counters. I took a ticket, B214. It was 10:07 a.m. On a Tuesday, the kind of hour when the lobby is mostly retirees with envelopes of checks. When my number flashed, I sat across from a banker in a navy blazer. I slid my ID across, my voice steady. I need to confirm a transfer. November 30th, $500, Zelle. She typed, nails clacking. The screen's light reflected on her glasses. After a pause, she nodded. Yes, it was sent from your account. Mobile authorization, fingerprint login. I felt my shoulders tighten. At 8:14 a.m. She checked. Correct. I showed her my phone. At that time, the battery was at 0. It wasn't even on. Her brows lifted. Do you share your passcode with anyone? No. Then I caught myself. Except, my sister once used it. To order takeout last year. That single oversight had rippled into this. My chest went cold. She leaned in, tone calm. You should file a fraud claim. You'll need to submit a notarized statement. If it's someone close, we'll escalate. Deadline is 30 days from transaction. 30 days. I wrote it down on the back of a deposit slip, December 30th, claim cutoff. The ink bled slightly where my pen pressed too hard. When I left, the December air felt sharper, the wind biting at my cheeks. The street noise, buses, a jackhammer 3 blocks down, blurred under the weight of that one date. At home, I opened a drawer where I keep important papers, lease agreement, insurance, tax letters. I slipped the printed transaction detail inside a clear sleeve, next to the note with the deadline. I touched the edge of the plastic, it felt slick, undeniable. Doubt was gone. I had proof, and a clock ticking. When my sister texted that night, "Can you send $60, just until Friday," I didn't answer. I looked at the plastic sleeve instead, at the black numbers that didn't bend to her words. For once, the silence was mine. On December 18th, I walked into a lawyer's office 2 blocks from the courthouse. The waiting area smelled of brewed coffee and lemon floor cleaner. A brass clock ticked softly above a bookshelf of binders labeled cases 2019 to 2022. I sat with my folder balanced on my knees, screenshot of the $500 transfer, printed statement from the bank, the note with 12/30 circled in ink. The plastic sleeve crinkled when I shifted. The lawyer was direct, mid-50s, gray suit, no small talk. He scanned the pages, tapping the date with his pen. "You've got a window," he said. "We file a formal fraud claim and a demand letter. It forces a response." "What does that mean for her?" I asked. He looked over his glasses. "She'll get a notice. And if she doesn't resolve, it escalates to an investigation. It stays on record." I nodded once. My palms were damp, but I didn't wipe them. We drafted the letter together. 3 paragraphs, plain language, unauthorized transfer, proof attached, demand for repayment within 10 business days. At the bottom, his signature, mine beside it. The paper was heavier than regular copy stock, a little rough under my fingertips. "You don't need to confront her," he said. "Let the letter speak." That afternoon, we mailed it certified. The receipt showed the tracking number in blocky font, timestamped December 18, 1542. Back home, I did one more thing. I logged into my account settings and revoked all saved devices. My sister's fingerprint, her casual access, that door shut with a single toggle. Then I changed the passcode, longer this time, 12 digits. The phone buzzed as the update confirmed. For the first time since the party, my apartment felt mine again. The air seemed stiller, the hum of the fridge steady, not drowned out by someone else's music. 3 days later, my sister called. Her voice was sharp, demanding. "What the hell is this letter? You think you're some kind of cop?" I didn't match her tone. "It's official," I said. "You'll need to respond in writing." The silence on the line was abrupt, heavy. Then came the slam of her hanging up. I stood at the window with the city lights flickering below. I didn't feel triumphant, just certain. The lever had been pulled. And I knew shock was settling on the other side. The letter landed harder than I expected. On December 23rd, I came home from work, 6:12 p.m., the winter sky already deep blue, and found 3 missed calls from my mother. Voicemail stacked, her voice tight. "Why would you drag family into lawyers? Call me back." I didn't. Instead, I slipped off my coat, the wool still smelling faintly of subway heat and someone's cologne from the rush-hour crush. I set my keys in the ceramic bowl by the door, the one piece untouched from that night. By 7 o'clock, my sister was pounding at my apartment door. Not knocking, pounding. The sound echoed down the hall. "Open up. We need to talk." I opened halfway, chain still latched. Her face was flushed, eyes sharp. "You're ruining my life." "A fraud investigation? Over $500? Her words sprayed like sparks, but I didn't flinch. I had the plastic sleeve in my hand, the evidence. "You took it. You didn't ask. That's not family, that's theft." She scoffed, glanced at the neighbor's doors cracked open. "You're pathetic. You couldn't even throw a real birthday party. Now you want to act superior?" The chain between us was the only barrier, thin metal but stronger than it looked. I said nothing more. After a minute, she stormed off, boots striking hard against the linoleum. 2 days later, the lawyer called. Her response had arrived, a shaky handwritten note on lined paper, scanned and emailed. One sentence stood out: "I didn't mean to, but I can't pay right now." No denial, just an excuse. That was enough. He forwarded it to the bank's fraud division. A case number was issued, FR 22819. I pinned the number on my fridge with a magnet shaped like a sunflower. Every time I poured water, I saw it. Not revenge. Just record. Christmas was quiet. No family dinner invite, no phone calls after that. I cooked for myself, roast chicken with lemon, the apartment filling with citrus and thyme. I ate at my small table, 30 inches across, candle burning. It felt strange but not lonely. The small win was this: the money wasn't back yet, but it was acknowledged. Documented. The story wasn't just in my head anymore. And the silence, though heavy, carried something new: space. But the gap between us was widening fast, and I knew it wouldn't stay quiet for long. The second piece of evidence arrived almost by accident. On January 4th, an envelope slid under my door, thin, official, with the bank's blue crest stamped at the corner. The paper smelled faintly of toner, edges still sharp. Inside was the fraud division's summary, transaction details, device ID, and a line that settled it all: accessed from iPhone 11, registered to her email. I sat at my table, the radiator clicking behind me, tracing the words with my fingertip. It wasn't my device. It was hers. The trail was undeniable. That evening, my sister showed up again, softer this time. Her coat hung loose, hair tied back like she wanted to look reasonable. She carried a plastic grocery bag. Inside, a box of chocolates and a crumpled receipt, timestamped 1842. "Can we just drop this?" she said, placing the bag on my counter without being invited. "It's family. You don't need to push it further." I slid the envelope across the table toward her. "They traced it to your phone." Her hand froze. For a second, I saw panic flicker in her eyes, then the mask returned. "You think that means anything? Phones get stolen. People borrow them. You're blowing this out of proportion." I didn't argue. I pointed to the printed line, the device ID, her email address spelled cleanly in black ink. No shouting, no long speeches. Just fact. She tried once more. "If this goes on record, I'll never get a loan, never pass a background check. You'll ruin me." I breathed in, the radiator heat dry in the air. My answer was even. "You did this. Not me." The silence stretched. The chocolate sat unopened between us, the receipt curling at the edges. Finally she grabbed the bag, shoved it back into her coat, and left without slamming the door this time. The hallway light flickered as she disappeared down the stairs. I closed the door and leaned my forehead against the wood. For the first time, there was no tug-of-war in my chest. No urge to second-guess. The truth gap was closed. There was no way back for her, and no reason for me to keep the chain loose. Now, in February, the apartment feels different. Quieter, but not empty. The bank closed the case 2 weeks ago. On January 28, the $500 was credited back, a line of numbers that looked small on the screen but felt enormous. A note followed, "Case FR 22819 resolved in claimant's favor." I printed it, slipped it into the same plastic sleeve. The stack of papers is neat now, no longer hidden under fear but filed in a labeled folder, "Finances, resolved." I haven't seen my sister since that night she tried to bargain with chocolates. No calls, no knocks at the door. My mother left one voicemail, short, almost formal, "We'll give you space." I haven't returned it yet. Maybe I won't for a while. My routines are simple. I wake at 6:45, grind coffee beans, dark roast, the smell filling the kitchen. I water the pothose plant by the window, its vines stretching toward the light. At my small table, I review budgets, work emails, the ordinary rhythm that makes me feel steady. Boundaries don't sound dramatic when you live them. They sound like, "No, I won't transfer you money. No, I won't open my door at midnight. Yes, I'll keep my accounts secure." It's not about punishment. It's about air. I replaced the chipped mug with a new one, white porcelain, smooth rim. $7.50 at the same thrift shop. When I hold it, I don't think about what was broken. I think about the choice to replace it. The bookshelf from my father still stands, dent and all. I dust it every Sunday, the wood warm under my hand. Some marks stay. Not every scar needs repair. Looking ahead 3 months, my plan is clear: file my taxes early, renew my lease, save for a short trip in May. Somewhere by the coast, maybe, where the salt air can erase the smell of stale beer that used to cling to my walls. I don't imagine my sister apologizing. That story isn't mine to write. What's mine is this: a locked door when I want it, a balanced ledger, a calm room where the only noise is the hum of the fridge and the tick of the clock. I sit here now, mug warm in my hands, radiator steady. For once, nothing is missing. And I choose myself.